Okay, so the singularity. Ray Kurzweil has been pushing this for a long time. Ray was at MIT for a while in moderately early days of the artificial intelligence lab. He wasn't actually a denizen of the lab, but he was a clever fellow, and he made a company. He was really interested in keyboards and stuff, and he made a really great music. He made early music synthesizers and chips for MIDI things and all that. And he made his fortune in the early days on that stuff, and then he went on, I think, to various sorts of translation stuff. So he had a company. And being a pure technologist and seeing how fast things could go, right? The future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. You're hanging around MIT, you yourself are finding out what the latest chips can do and are recommending designs for chips that can do other things. You're thinking, we can make sound like humans. Pretty soon we're going to have great speech perception, we're going to have hearing perception, we're going to have music perception. We can do this stuff. So he says, it's just a small amount of time before all the computers, we'll have computers that can catch up to humans and succeed them. Now, the concept of the singularity, the term was not invented by Ray. It was invented by I know, I've forgotten his name. He's a mathematician at State, and he's retired now. He was a science fiction writer, and he invented the term singularity about 20 years or 25 years ago. The idea is this. As the computers get smarter and smarter, just like you saw from Moravec, where the liquid goes up and it starts to cover all the things that we can do, even the stuff that it's hard for robots to do, such as fluid motion and things like that. It begins to do all of that stuff, and it certainly can think. It begins to start to deal with wicked problems. Wicked problems are the hardest problems. They are like our justice problems and making policy and stuff, with a lot of competing considerations, and there's no obvious good answer. So they're ill-posed and stuff. And people have always said, oh, well, computers will never get there. But they're saying, no. Look, not only will they get there, but they will begin to solve those problems much better than we can. And moreover, just as design is an ill-posed problem, not a well-defined problem, so it is that as the computers can get better at this, they are going to get better at design. Well, designing a better chip is a design problem. So at the point at which the computers can design better than we can, they go arbitrarily fast in the generations of new design. And so they're pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. They're booting themselves up. Booting comes from bootstrap. So they're booting themselves up, going better and better and better. And now the generations, the machine generations, are getting faster and faster and faster. Well, what are those things that are going to be so far ahead of us going to be interested in? What are they going to design? What are they going to treat as the solutions to our problems? We can't figure that out now. So essentially, the singularity means it's a curtain. You can't see beyond the curtain because you have no idea what they're going to do. That's the singularity. The singularity is the point at which, not just the point at which the computers design themselves, it's the point at which, because the computers design themselves, they're coming up with solutions you have no idea about. And of course, you can imagine the anxiety this produces because we can't even understand what they're doing. Now, you either have faith in them or you don't have faith in them. And you better, and some people, like Mr. Tesla, he thinks that you have no reason to be certain that the computers will not decide that humans are unnecessary. So he's quite concerned about the absolute progress of artificial intelligence to the point of singularity. So he funds some of the critique of that. All right, so here are some claims that these techno-optimists have. Human existence will undergo a quantum leap in evolution. We'll be able to live as long as we choose, assuming that we still have the right to choose. This evolution will start with 3 overlapping revolutions in genetics, in nanotechnology, and robotics. He says, no matter how successfully we fine-tune our DNA-based biology, biology will never be able to match what we will be able to engineer. So he says we'll be able to engineer faster, better, smarter, finer, smaller, everything, more powerful. We will always be second-class robots. Better bodies, longer bodies, smarter bodies, everything, smarter minds, everything. The most powerful impending revolution is the robotic revolution, by which he means artificial intelligence in all its variations. So, nano will enable us to redesign and rebuild not only our bodies and brains, but also the world with which we interact. No more problems. He's an optimist. You'll be able to live to 1,000. Here's David Goodall. I think Goodall just died. He's a good scientist. He was a good scientist. Nanomedicine researcher Robert Freitas estimates that eliminating 50% of medically preventable conditions would extend human life expectancy to 150 years. If we were able to prevent 99% of naturally occurring medical problems, we'd live to be more than 1,000 years old. There's some people who do not believe this at all. They think that but the goal of this would have to be, so a lot of aging is caused by the unraveling of the telomeres at the end of the DNA. So as you get noise in the DNA, you could treat it as a mutation, but it's not a mutation, it's noise. That means that the proteins are not being defined perfectly. We're not recreating exactly the RNA we need, and we're not recreating exactly the proteins we need, and this causes slow accretion of imperfection, and at times leads to system failures. So if you can nanotech it, you send down those little things, they go down there. If they have proper understanding, why don't they just go back and see if they can? You've got to have recorded somewhere the original DNA, though. So if you have recorded the original DNA, then you could keep repairing it. Now, does the human body continue to live forever like that, or not? Does your heart eventually stop because the biology just wears down, even though it's perfectly designed every year? Yeah. I'm sorry, using the world to live? Oh, losing the will to live, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is always a concern. It's both a promise and a concern. So it's a promise for people that they won't mind dying. At some point you get old enough and you say, I've had it, I had a great life, just time to shuck this mortal coil. Okay, maybe they would lose the will to live, I can't say. So he's saying that'll change. Nanotechnology in the human brain, around 2030. I call your attention to the fact that that is a scant less than 11 whole years from now. 10 years and a month from now, nanobots will enable biological and non-biological or machine intelligence. We will augment our 100 trillion very slow interneuronal connections with high-speed virtual connections via nanorobots. So as you can see, they're going to go in there and they're going to plug in. And then guess what happens? They're wireless, right? So now you can recruit everything. So wireless communication from one brain to another. Nanobots will communicate with each other, create new neural connections, break existing connections by suppressing neural firing, create new hybrid biological and computer networks, and add completely mechanical networks, as well as interface intimately with new computer programs and artificial intelligence. We will be able to download new knowledge and skills, just like the Matrix. Who doesn't want that? Okay. Now he starts to face the music. So he's saying, well, are we going to become humans or are we going to become something else? Because I thought the future was going to be a utopia for humans. But I seem to be defining us in a way that isn't human any longer. So he says, well, as I call it, non-biological intelligence should still be considered human, since it's fully derived from human-machine civilization and will be based, at least in part, on a human-made version of a fully functional human brain. Why that should be the case? Once it's starting to redesign, and he's saying it's going to fix everything else, surely it would fix all the imperfections, right? I mean, there are people we still kill in our society because they are imperfect. At least we think that they're imperfect if they could commit such atrocities. But they're not so imperfect that we don't consider them to be, lose the capacity to judge. So they still have to know they were doing wrong. But something's wrong with them because the juices are squirting and telling them to be sociopaths. So, but he also says, we will incorporate more computer-based processes into our biological functioning until we transcend our crude earthly bodies entirely and become machine-based, virtually immortal. Well, we have 3 minutes before we consider arguments for and against, and we're not going to do that. So tell me, what do you think? First, how many think there will be a singularity? Not in 11 years. How many think there'll be a singularity? That's it? Come on. What generation are you? You don't think there's going to be a time when the computers are going to be sufficiently advanced? Look, we know that Moore's law still holds. They double in the number of processes, in the speed and the number of processors each 2 years. And it's getting even faster. And when they do not, and if they get quantum computing, you get a whole a massive burst in the amount of computation that can be done. I mean, a massive burst. It's okay. So, come on. You know that the computers are going to be there. You know it. Let's try this step by step. How many think in 10 years the computers will be 100 times better than they are now? Okay. How many think that in 40 years the computers will be thousands of times better than they are now? How many think that the sensor technology in 20 years will be thousands of times better than it is now? Yeah, are you just saying yes to all this, or you have a point? You're enthusiastic. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to take it that the majority of you all believe that the computers are going to be there, right? Now you're going to say it's a small matter of programming, right? But we get automatic programming, don't we? So